All right. So you made the decision. You get to an offer. You're negotiating. Do you have any like dissenting parties on the cap table, or is it everybody saying, "Hey, this is the right decision. This is where we want to land." Everybody's calculating their post-tax outcome, right?
Yeah.
And they're happy. So how'd
It
that go?
was it was a little bit challenging. So the original offer was based on the angels and VCs exiting, and some had common, some had preferred. So they were doing their math, and it was okay, except that you still have, people who think their shares should be worth more than the other people's shares,
Hmm.
and so there's a little bit of the, and you're sort of in the middle, trying to make sure everybody's happy and content, and just feeling like
Yeah.
it's a good opportunity for them. Um,
So stop there. I think it's such an important point because you are playing psychologist, trying to run a business, politics, right? Of all the people that have some stake, and you're trying to drive to a goal line, right? And you got all these people that you kind of have to bring with you and keep relatively happy. And what people can say, oh, okay, yeah, I could do that. Yeah, can you run a business at the same time and keep growing that business, right? Because they're going to take advantage. The buyer's going to say, oh, no, you didn't hit your numbers. What's happening? There's more risk in the business. So, like you were obviously managing this all on your own.
Holding it together, I wouldn't say managing it. It was probably one of the most stressful times in my life. I think when you're in process, whether that process goes to the end or not,
Hmm.
it's basically a full-time job
Yeah.
between lawyers, investors, partners, acquirers. Uh, I don't think people recognize how much time a CEO and anybody in that exec team just burn up. And unfortunately, it's on top of everything else that you already do, right? So customers don't know, employees don't know. And
Right.
that's one of the hardest things. Our company was in a very small space.
Yeah.
We had no offices, desks were right next to each other. So even taking a phone call and talking about these things
Yeah.
was challenging.
Yeah.
Um, and, and you're trying to juggle all of that. So it was a very stressful time. And but trying to keep everybody sort of content
Yeah.
and seeing things through the right lens.
Yeah, it's an interesting decision, right? Sometimes you're kind of forced to not let employees know, particularly if you have more than, say, 10 people, right?
Yep.
Because you can't have a mass exodus of key people or really anybody. I've sold businesses where my business only had 5 people, and I felt like I could bring people under the veil, and you knew who was going to be acquired or have a job on the other side, and those who were not. I remember telling one guy, look, they have your role. I want you to spend the next 3 months while we're doing this, starting another business. Go in that room and figure something out, right? And so that was actually very rewarding to be able to do. But that privacy component to it, once you get to a size of 10 people, boy, you got to keep tight lips, right? Or you can
Yeah.
be in trouble, customers, employees, like you said. Um, all right. So how did the negotiation
Yeah.
really
So
go?
I, I, I don't remember exactly what the shift was, but at some point, I think the founders, we realized that, well, if everybody else is exiting and if everybody else is sort of moving on, at least financially,
Yeah. Yeah.
that, what does that look like for us?
Yeah.
And kind of, okay, are we really going to sit here for the next 30 years?
Yeah.
Or do we have, do we want also to participate? So the deal ended up getting restructured, and it was a challenging thing to sell to the acquirer, like, hey, if you guys exit, why would you stay on? And it was as much about talented people, because we're a small company,
Yep.
as it was about retaining, intellectual property and customer lists. So it took a while to now convince them and change the mechanics of the deal to include the founders.
Hmm.
And there were mechanisms in there, earnouts and things like that, to make sure that everybody was incentivized and aligned to those things.
Yeah.
And so that took a while to restructure. And at that point, in a way, it sort of created even more complications, because now you've got common shareholders, founders, preferred, and the acquirer and employees all vying for some level of attention and trying to figure out, who gets what and finding a balance for that.
Um, one of the things that you brought up that is really interesting to me is that, you can have a venture investor, an angel investor who's on a timeline, right? They want to see a return in, call it 5 to 7 years. Maybe in certain industries it pushes out a little longer. But when you go to sell to essentially a family owned business that's been in business for 30 years, that has no pressure or plan to create liquidity for shareholders,
Mhm.
what is truly the value of that stock, right? So you got to know what you're getting into. You can't cross your fingers and hope, yeah, they're going to sell in the next 3 years and I'm going to get my payday. So obviously you're aware of that. And as you
Yes,
saw all the other shareholders kind of taking their piece, you and Victor said, all right, look, the founders got to figure out their piece too.
exactly.
That's pretty interesting that it was kind of done in those stages. You didn't really ink it stages, right? But the whole M&A process evolved, right?
Significantly.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Okay, so you get the deal that you're all excited about, right? You sign the deal, and then your team goes and becomes employees of another company.
Yeah, and
How's that?
we were really proud of the fact that we managed to keep everybody with a job. Some people got transferred to the parent company because they were going to lead with sales. So the salespeople could now just have a new boss, but they
Yeah.
were doing the same things for the same customers. So we were very proud of the fact that we were able to maintain the same team and grow it and make those investments. But team was a big part of it. People when you work for a small startup and you're sitting desk by desk, you really want to, those people are family, and you want to take as good a care of them as possible.
Mhm.